And good morning to everybody. Late morning. Welcome to the Krueg Show. Brought to you by Pig and a Pickle, the best barbecue in all of Northern California. Check them out in Emeryville and Corte Madera. It is Friday of Cowboys week. And we are also brought to you by Jurens.com. We'll tell you more about Jurens in a bit. But with us on the line, with us here in studio, I should say, to chop it up and talk Niners on this Friday. Also co-streamed on his own channel, the great Jack Hammer in the house. Hey, Jack, good to see you, man. How are you?
I'm good. Good to see you, Larry. Friday, big game coming up on Sunday. Can't wait for that. So looking forward to it.
Well, why don't we just jump right in on I won't bury the lead. Sometimes I do bury the lead. In this case, I'm going to ask you the question that this stream is titled on my channel, which is, can the 49ers offensive line deal with Dallas's speed? Dallas has a ton of speed. They got a lot of depth. They've got six or seven different guys up front that have like 6 or 7 pressures. So it's, we talk about Parsons, but it's not all Parsons. It's very much a collective effort. Can the Niner O-line handle their stiffest test to date?
I think they can. I think it's going to, it's definitely a challenge. It's not like the game out against the Steelers in Pittsburgh, where it was just one guy you had to worry about. You just had to worry about TJ Watt, and the rest of them you figured you can handle. This is different. Parsons is the guy everybody's talking about, but they have DeMarcus Lawrence off the other side. He's been really good. And then, I'm going to butcher his last name, but Osa, the defensive interior player, tackle. Right. He's been really good as well. He's actually second on the team in sacks. It's very similar to what we see in San Francisco, right? With Bosa kind of leading the way. He gets all the everybody kind of points at him, but they have all these other guys that can get after the quarterback as well. We're seeing kind of the same thing there. I do think the 49ers can handle it just because of how quickly they usually get the ball out. They do a good job with Brock Purdy getting the ball out of his hands quick. He does a good job of seeing it, getting it out. So I don't think he's going to get sacked a whole lot, but I do think he's going to be under pressure, and I would expect to see some throwaways and things like that maybe a little bit higher rate than we have so far earlier in the year.
Are you surprised by how Shanahan has, dealt with the protection up front? I mean, looking at the numbers, George Kittle's been asked to stay in and block very infrequently. Mm-hmm. Juszczyk has not been staying in and blocking that frequently. You look at the numbers, Shanahan has gone the other route. He has preferred to put 5 weapons out in the route, and just lean on Brock to get it out quick and not, he's not worried about the extra blocker. He'd rather have the extra eligible. So he's putting 5 in the pattern, trying to make the defense defend the entire field, and then putting the onus on Brock to process what he sees quickly and get it out to his weapons quickly, on time, and with accuracy. And thus far, it's working. But are you surprised that he's putting so much on his quarterback's plate in year 2?
I'm not surprised. I think there's a lot of trust between the two. I think that Kyle Shanahan really believes in what Brock Purdy can do, and Brock Purdy is delivering on that trust. And we're seeing it on a regular basis. You watch his way that he plays, and there's just so much. And you asked a great question to Kyle on Wednesday about the whole system quarterback thing, and that's the thing, is he's a product of the system, but he also takes it to another level because he's able to make all the throws. The coach has the trust in him that he can call whatever he wants, and that the quarterback's not going to screw it up with a turnover. And so you hit on it. You get pressure, but he gets the ball out of his hand quick. He knows where the checkdowns are. He's not afraid to take those checkdowns, as well as be able to push the ball down the field by getting the ball out early. You hear so much about throwing receivers open. You can look through the film of Brock Purdy through these first 4 weeks of the season and find a ton of examples of him throwing receivers open.
It is interesting. People might be saying, well, Krug, what exactly are you referring to when you're talking about Kyle leaving his offensive line on an island all season long? Well, it's funny. One of the things that you hear a lot is that, George Kittle, blocks too much. But that's not actual fact. Kittle has only 15 snaps as a pass blocker this year. So he's blocking, 3 times a game? Kyle Juszczyk only has 4 snaps in pass protection. Christian McCaffrey has only 13 snaps all year in pass protection. And what Shanahan's done is basically sends out that fifth eligible into a passing route, uses the entire field, and he's putting his money on the Niners skill position players, and probably justifiably so. And then he's just hoping that Brock can process and find the open man before the rush gets to Purdy. Purdy's been really, really good in this area, Jack. He's been getting the ball out at the 4th fastest rate in the league. He's really at his best when he gets it out in under 2.5 seconds. But, that to me, that's really, it's revealing of how much confidence Shanahan has in Brock Purdy. And then this week, you got Parsons, you got DeMarcus Lawrence, Dorrance Armstrong, Osa, Fowler, Williams, Golston. I mean, you got a bunch of guys on this Cowboy front that can get after the quarterback. And when you look at McKivitz's numbers, he's doing well as a run blocker. The Niners are running 4.7 yards per carry behind him. And that might be the best way to slow down Parsons, is just run it right at him. But if you look at this is according to Sports Info Solutions, they have McKivitz rated 132nd in pass blocking efficiency out of 137 offensive linemen who have played at least 100 snaps. So how concerned are you about Colton in this matchup?
There's definitely concern. This is the toughest matchup he's faced since week 1, and we know how that went for him. But again, you look at McKivitz in week 1 against Watt. Yeah, he gave up 3 sacks, but those all came after the 49ers already had a 20-0 lead, and so they didn't impact the game, right? And I think this week with it's not really even just McKivitz against Parsons. Parsons moves all over the place, so it's really that entire 49ers front is going to have to be ready for him at some point, because he doesn't just rush from the left side of the defense, and he'll come up the middle. He'll go over on the right side. He's all over the place. So everybody needs to be ready to take care of Parsons. I think you look at the 49ers, and if McKivitz is having trouble, then you go to the run, you go to the screens. You have so many ways that you can attack with Deebo Samuel and George Kittle and Christian McCaffrey with their ability to run after the catch. I think that's where the 49ers, if they're struggling with handling the pressure of Parsons, I think you see them just kind of dial it back a little bit, take those little short underneath throws, and let their guys go out and run. The Cowboys haven't been all that good at it so far this season as far as stopping yards after the catch.
No, you're absolutely right. Parsons, by the way, has been doubled 29% of the time. He's super athletic, incredible acceleration, rare strength, crazy motor. I mean, he's got it all. And if you look at where he's lined up, he's played in every position in their front seven, from linebacker playing off the ball. He's lined up over the nose or over the center at the nose guard spot. The majority of the time he rushes over the left tackle. He has 86 snaps as an edge rusher on the right side against the left tackles, 62 snaps on the defensive left side against the offensive right tackles. And interestingly, when the Niners beat the Cowboys last year in the playoffs, Parsons lined up at 6 different spots, and he actually wound up playing 12 more snaps against Williams than he did against McGlinchey. So, I'm not sure exactly what that says. The other thing that is kind of interesting is Dallas will blitz, and they're the 9th highest blitz rate team in the league, and that's how they get, one-on-ones for Parson and for Lawrence. So, to me, this is kind of where the game is, decided. And I think this is why I really like the Niners to win this game decisively, is because Brock Purdy's a better player this year than when he played Dallas last year. Last year, his average time from snap to release was 2.84 seconds. That was 29th in the league. This year, he's 6th in the league. He's getting it out on average of 2.56 seconds. And I just think that that knowledge of the Niner offense, that experience, and that acceleration of everything he's doing pre-snap, at the snap, processing, post-snap, to me is why he's so good right now, and why I think the 49ers are going to win this game.
Yeah, you look at the game last year, and there's a number of times where there's opportunities for him to take a throw down the field, and he passes it up. And he talked about that yesterday, where he felt like he was a little sped up. He was playing a little faster than he needed to, and getting off of reads quicker than he needed to. So I think, again, it all kind of plays together. He knows there's plays to be made in this offense. He can be a little bit more comfortable in the pocket in terms of he's going to still get it out quick, but stick on those reads downfield a little bit more and take those shots. We've seen him do that more often. He's not the top yak guy right now like he was last season. He was one of the highest. This year the 49ers are a little bit further down. They're still one of the best, but they're not. I think they're seventh in the league right now in terms of yards after the catch, because he is pushing the ball down the field more often.
Who do you think's the key weapon for the Niners? Debo, Ayuk. Ayuk's been spectacular. McCaffrey's been, MVP like. Something tells me this could be a big George Kittle game. What do you think? I mean, the Niners have a bevy of weapons, and it's really anybody's guess from week to week who's going to be the featured weapon. Who do you see here?
Yeah, I'm looking. I think this is a big George Kittle, Debo Samuel game because of the fact that they're going to need to throw the ball over the middle so much. That's where really those two guys really work their best, is when they're coming across the middle. I really think it's going to be a big day for those two with McCaffrey, getting the checkdowns and things like that. But I would say more of a Debo and a Kittle game this week than Ayuk. That's just my guess coming into this one.
James Foster's throwing you $4.99. He says, "Hey Jack, you're reporting from PD."
Press Democrat
was talked about on the Fantasy Footballers podcast a couple weeks ago. You're famous, dude. You're famous.
Yeah, I know that the tweet that I had with Brandon Ayuk about the update on his status kind of went crazy, and yeah, there was a lot of discussion around the Twitter sphere and whatnot about it. So good stuff.
Yeah, let's talk about the Niners on the defensive side of the ball. It's funny. I asked Steve Wilkes yesterday a question that I think he probably misunderstood. It was kind of a negative bent question. And the question was basically, hey, Steve, Drake Jackson, Kerry Hyder, and Cleveland Farrell have 8 combined quarterback hits in the first month of the year. In 243 pass rush snaps, they have 8 hits on the quarterback. I probably should have dropped a only in there to give away exactly the angle. He kind of took it as, yeah, they're doing a good job, and they're really doing a good job against the run. But 8 quarterback hits and 243 pass rushing snaps for that trio is not actually getting it done. That's actually a really low number. It's so 8 combined quarterback hits and 243 rush snaps. I mean, to put that in perspective, Randy Gregory, who was cut by the Broncos this week, has 4 quarterback hits in 73 pass rush snaps by himself. Those 3 guys have 8 combined in 243 snaps. He kind of went with it as a positive, but it really is not a positive. How concerned should the Niners be about their edge rushers not named Nick Bosa and the production or lack thereof from that trio of guys?
I don't know. You look at it. Farrell right now is second on the team in terms of quarterback hits. He's got 3 on 91 himself, right? So he's doing an okay job. It's Drake Jackson who's really struggling more. Drake Jackson kind of brings that total down because he only has the 3. The only time quarterback hits, he doesn't even have a quarterback hit other than the sacks that he had against Pittsburgh. So he's the one that's really kind of dragging that down for the 49ers. I think that group as a whole is doing a really nice job when you take into account what Bosa's doing and then what's happening in the middle with Armstead and Hargrave. But on the off of the edge, there would be concern there if you're just focusing on that portion of the pass rush, definitely, because you have when it comes to quarterback hits, Bosa has 9 and Burrow has 3. You look at the rest of the players, and Pro Football Focus does a nice job of pulling out the difference between a quarterback hit and a quarterback sack, whereas Pro Football Reference doesn't. They lump them together. And right now, the only quarterback hits are from Bosa and Farrell in terms of those edge rushers outside of the sack. So it's definitely would be a concern if you're just focusing on the edge. But when I look at this 49ers pass rush as a whole, I feel really good about it. I think they're a better pass rushing unit than people are giving them credit for. I know they don't have the huge sack percentage, but there's so much that's going into that besides just their performance.
Would you be interested in Randy Gregory? I mean, he signed a big contract with Denver, 5 years, $70 million. They released him Wednesday. He had seen his playing time reduced. He had lost his starting job. He was coming off an injury. He needed surgery when Denver signed him. But man, he's never played more. If you look at his game log, he's never really played more than 14 games. He was limited to 33 snaps last week. He did have a quarterback hit, but he hadn't played north of 65% of the Broncos snaps in any game this year. He only appeared in 6 games last year. He had a knee injury in week 4. Then he's had some violations of league rules. So between injuries and that, he really hasn't played a full year. He got off to a strong start to the season, or I should say Drake did, but 9 of his 11 pressures, as you kind of mentioned, came in the first couple of games. Gregory does have suspensions, 14 games in 2016 for violating the NFL substance abuse policy. He was suspended for the entire 2017 season, 2 games in 18, and the full 19 season, multiple violations. And that's pretty much why he's never played a full season. But he is, Denver's on the hook for the contract, so he can sign with any team. Niners could sign him to a 1-year deal, with incentives and just say, hey, prove it to us, and not really dig very deep into their $41 million in available cap space to make it happen. The one thing about Gregory, the guy is consistent in getting pressure. For the past 3 seasons, his pressure percentage has been north of 15%. What do you think? I mean, the Niners in the past, if you go way back to guys like Tim Harris back in the day, they've taken some shots with edge rushers who, run a little hot, let's just say. Gregory may not be a culture fit, but man, he sure looks like he's a scheme fit. Would you be interested in Randy Gregory in any way?
I would definitely take a look. That's one of those players that, it doesn't cost you anything in terms of picks or players or anything like that to go bring him in, just cost you some money. He's getting a good amount right now already with the contract. So, he might be willing to come in for on a little bit of a cheaper deal to come in and try to win a championship. So why not take a flyer on him, bring him in. You've already doing that several times in the backfield on the defensive side. So why not do it on the pass rush? See if you can maybe hit lightning in a bottle. It doesn't work out, you release him. It's not a high risk. It's a low risk, high reward type of a move.
No question about it. The Niners right now playing incredible football. They're one of 2 undefeated teams in the NFL. The offense is averaging over 30 points a game. The defense is allowed only 14.5 points per game. What do you think? Is Kyle Shanahan coach of the year? Are the Niners too talented of a roster for Kyle to win coach of the year? Who would get your vote right now for coach of the year?
Right now, I would go with Kyle Shanahan. I mean, his team is one of the most explosive in the league, undefeated, like you said, averaging over 30 points a game. It's hard to go in any other direction. I think he was the coach of the year in the assistant coach of the year, whatever it was in 2016 when Atlanta went to the Super Bowl that year and they put up big numbers on offense. And it's not like that Atlanta offense didn't have a ton of talent, to make that happen. I think he's right there. He should be in the conversation. And if it was my vote right now, I'd vote for Kyle Shanahan first.
The only one I could think of would be D'Amico. If somehow the Texans go on and have some epic, 9-10 win type year, then you probably got to give it to D'Amico in year 1. But I just think the fact is the Niners lost D'Amico. They lost Slowick as an offensive coach, became Texans offensive coordinator. The year prior, they lost Mike McDaniel. They've had a defection of some of their top coaches, including their coordinators, and yet they haven't missed a beat. They're 4-0. They're playing great. They're scoring 30 a game. Kyle's getting unbelievable play out of his quarterback. To me, it's, I know it's always a premise-based award, right? The premise is that the Niners have a ton of talent. So Kyle's expected to win. But you know the way sports is. Sometimes doing what you're expected to do is the most difficult thing to do. And unless D'Amico has just a monster, campaign with the Texans, I think it's Kyle's award this year. I really do.
Yeah, if this run continues for San Francisco, I think he gets it. At the same time, D'Amico Ryans does deserve a lot of credit. That's a 2-2 football team right now that nobody expected to be very good. He got it. They went out and picked a young quarterback, and that young quarterback's playing, really good for him. And they're kind of the story right now, I think, in the AFC. They're not. I don't think they're going to be a team that's going to be a contender when it comes playoff time, but they're a team that I think has a good shot at getting to the playoffs. And you look at who they have to play in their division. I think they match up well with all those teams, and keep an eye on Houston because they're definitely coming.
This, by the way, is the 40th edition of Niners Cowboys. And the Niners and Cowboys currently are 19 wins for Niners, 19 wins for Dallas, one tie. What a rivalry. Under Shanahan, the Niners are 2-2 against Dallas. Dallas beat the Niners in 2017 and in 2020. Both seasons, the Niners finished 6-10. Shanahan's wins have come in the last two playoffs against Dallas, where the Niners have ended Dallas's season. To me, we talked about the key matchup on Dallas's defense against the Niner offense. Let's flip the card and talk about the key matchup on the other side of the ball, Niners defense against Dallas's offense. And to me, it's CeeDee Lamb. And the one thing about Lamb that's interesting is this year he's taken 150 of his 220 snaps out of the slot.
Mm-hmm.
He played primarily the slot receiver in his rookie year, 86% of the snaps out of the slot. But over the last 2 years, he's been used a lot more outside, 61% in 2021, 46.3% in 2022 on the boundaries. What do you think? I talked to Isaiah Oliver about the matchup this week. What do you think of Oliver against Lamb, or do you think that Wilkes may move Diamador Lenore inside against Lamb? Who do you think matches up better?
I think for the 49ers, I would go with Isaiah Oliver inside because I just think it's such a weakness when you put Ambry Thomas on the field. We saw how that played out last week. They took Isaiah Oliver off the field, put Ambry Thomas in on the boundary, and Arizona went right after it. Three plays in a row. When incompletion on a deep throw, hit the deep throw on the next one. Next one's a touchdown. They saw that and they went right after it. And I think Dallas has the ability to do that as well. I know that Isaiah Oliver is not necessarily. He's not a guy that's going to be able to chase him across. He's not going to be able to chase CeeDee Lamb across the field, on that kind of route. But you're not going to get that out of any of these guys. And even Diamador Lenore is not going to be able to run with CeeDee Lamb on a crosser. He's going to be behind him usually. We saw that against the Rams with Puka Nacua. It's going to be a challenge, but the biggest thing for the 49ers is if CeeDee Lamb is inside, which I expect that he will do, as you mentioned, the numbers there. You just need to limit him. Last year in that game last season, he had one catch for 46 yards. The other 9, he only got 71. So they did a good job of really limiting him, keeping him, to short catches. And that's really what I think, again, that goes back to why I think the 49ers pass rush doesn't have the big numbers. They give up so much short stuff because they don't want to give up the explosive. They want to make you work for it. Their pass rush their pass rush is good, but the ball's coming out so quick because there's guys open underneath. So I think he might have a nice day, but I think that Isaiah Oliver can limit him in terms of the, big over the top kind of stuff, especially, lining up in the slot, getting some help from the linebackers or the safeties on some of that stuff.
Oliver and Lamb have faced each other once in 2020. Lamb finished with one catch on one target for 12 yards lined up against Oliver. Oliver, by the way, Jack, has been targeted 16 times on the year. He's given up 13 catches for 77 yards, 5.9 yards per catch. He's got a pick and no touchdowns allowed out of the slot. In fact, his 60.7% or 60.7 passer rating, I should say, against in the slot, against receivers in the slot is second in the league, trailing only Kenny Moore, who leads the league with a passer rating of 59.4. So what do you think overall of the addition of Oliver? I like him just because he gives them another veteran guy who plays with poise. He doesn't panic. It's not his first rodeo. He's been there. He's done it. He preps like a pro. He's very cerebral. What is your assessment thus far of the of what Lambs looked like in a Niner uniform,
Yeah,
or
I
what
think
Oliver looks like in a Niner uniform.
Yeah, no, I gotcha. No, I think when you watch Oliver, I think that which you pretty much hit it on the head. He's just been a steady player. He's come in, he hasn't anything spectacular, but uh, I shouldn't really totally say that, because in the first real action he got against the Rams, he comes away with a big interception that really helped turn that game around. So he's just been solid, a solid player. Hasn't allowed anything deep for the most part. He's done a really good job. He's been a sure tackler. If those catches are coming underneath, he's right there to make that tackle. He's good against the run. So as that slot guy, you've got to be able to cover, and you're really like the third linebacker on the field. So you've got to be able to do both, and he does that well. I like it. I think he's similar to Jimmy Ward in that respect. I think he's a good solid tackler. I think he's a little bit better in coverage than Ward was last year. I'm looking forward to seeing this matchup with him on Sunday.
Dallas got the best defense the Niners have faced so far. The Rams were ranked 9th in yards allowed per game. Pittsburgh, Arizona, and the Giants were all ranked in the bottom half in terms of yards allowed per game. Dallas is pretty strong. I mean, Dallas has got a defense with a lot of pressure up front. But I just feel like this is a good matchup for the 49ers. Because I think Dallas gives up explosive plays, but I also think that they're susceptible to the run. I think if you say, well, why have the Niners, felt comfortable in these matchups with Dallas? I think they feel like they match up well with Dallas.
Yeah, I think they do too. You look at the Cowboys. They've given up 15 explosive plays on defense this year. The 49ers are at 8. And so the Cowboys are one of the better teams in the league at limiting the explosive play. The Niners are the best. It's interesting when you look at the teams, their game against the Cardinals, for example. The 49ers have been so good. They went into that game last week against Arizona having given up just 5, and they give up 3, right? You look at the Cowboys in their game against the Cardinals, and the Cardinals had big explosive plays in the pass game and the run game. So I think for the 49ers, I like this matchup. I like their ability to run. The Cowboys' run defense has been solid overall, but part of that's because they've been up so big that when you look at like their total yards allowed, they're like 17th, middle of the pack, but they're not very good when it comes to rush yards per attempt. They're, I think, 7th worst in the league, 4.6 yards per rush attempt. I think it sets up good for the 49ers and what they like to do. And you've got to stick to it. You might have a little bit of trouble early on, but you keep going. And I think we're going to see a little bit more of that power run gaps scheme type of run this week against the Cowboys, just because they're so quick. It makes it hard to get on them in the zone running game, because they move too fast for your linemen to be able to get there. So I think that's why you got to gap them up and power them and run right at them. And that's usually where you're going to find success. That's where they found success last year in the divisional round.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. I was looking at those numbers. First half, Niners ran wide against Dallas, and they averaged like 2.5 yards a carry. Second half, they ran kind of more at Dallas, and they averaged over 4 yards a carry. Mm-hmm. As far as the Niners pass rush on Dak Prescott, I have a hard time seeing the Niners sacking Prescott a lot in this game. He's doing something this year that he didn't do last year. Last year, his average time to throw was 2.72 seconds. This year, it's 2.49, which ranks 4th in the NFL. They're not as explosive down the field. They're not making the big chunk yardage plays, the Cowboys, down the field, but they're more efficient offensively than they've been. And, they're a different kind of offense. So, I mean, I don't know that the Niners are going to be able to sack Prescott a lot. I'm not sure that ought to be the plan, to sell out to sack the quarterback here, because I don't think they're going to be able to. I think they're going to have to play tighter coverage.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think that you're going to see a lot of sacks on him, but they can get pressure on him though. And that's almost the same. And when they look at the game last year, one of the interceptions, the one that the Nor had along the right sideline, that was all about pressure in his face and getting the ball out because of pressure. This is an interesting one, because this might be the first time that the Cowboys have had their full starting offensive line on the field this season. They haven't had it at all. They haven't even practiced together until yesterday. in terms of their full starting offensive line. So I think that'll be interesting. I think some of the quick passing game has been because of the lack of, the up front, kind of what we see with the 49ers, right? They have some concerns, so they want to get the ball out quick. I think that plays a role into it. Dak at the same time, he's a good quarterback, but he doesn't, he's going to give you opportunities to make plays. So I think you're going to see the 49ers be able to pressure him into a mistake. Maybe in terms of sacks, I don't know about sacks, how many you're going to get there, but they're going to be able to pressure him into some mistakes. And you look at the Cowboys receiving core as a whole, they really don't have very many guys that are explosive down the field. Lamb's really the only one. So get a little stickier in coverage, get a little tighter, and that's when the 49ers generally do a better job of creating pressure and sacks as it is. So I think this can be a good opportunity for them. Last year they only got to him once. Samson Ebukam was recorded the only sack in the game last year on Prescott. So I think you'll see something similar this time around.
The X's and O's game is going to be fun to watch. Cowboys, of course, changed their OC from Kellen Moore to Brian Schottenheimer, and it's kind of changed their approach a little bit. They're getting the ball out quicker in the pass game. They're trying to keep Dak Prescott, cleaner, and then he's been more effective. They're not quite as dynamic as they were. This is going to be a huge test for the Niners' run defense. To me, that's a major one. Both these teams run the ball a lot. The 49ers rank second in the NFL. They run the ball almost 53% of the time. Cowboys are fifth. They run the ball 49% of the time. So both these teams commit to the run. They don't just run it. They commit to running it. How concerned are you about the 49er run D? In the preseason, Jack, the Niners really struggled to stop the run. In the regular season, they've done a nice job, including last week against James Conner. But this is a different battle here with Pollard, who's now the bell cow back in Dallas after Zeke Elliott left for New England. And it's, the Cowboys have rushed for 141 yards per game on the ground. That's seventh in the NFL. They're not quite as efficient. They 4.1 yards per attempt, which is in the bottom half of the league. What do you think about Pollard? How would you compare Pollard to Connor and the back the Niners stopped last week?
They're totally different styles of players, right? James Conner's a big guy who still has some moves, but he's more of a power runner. You're going to get some power from Pollard, but he can get to the edge a little bit easier with more consistency, I guess. I think he definitely creates a challenge here for the 49ers. And at the same time, it's interesting because if the 49ers can hold up along the defensive front with those 4 down linemen, I think they can do a good job of stopping if they're running between the tackles. And then when you try to run to the edge on the 49ers, a lot of times they do a really nice job there because they have so much speed that they can chase you down on those outside runs. So I think the 49ers defense when it comes to the run is going to be really good. I think you look at the game last week and Connor, they did a really good job early of shutting James Conner down. And then he kind of got going a little bit after the first couple series, but I think that was partly just due to the game flow, right? When you're up 14-3 and you're not necessarily pressing quite as much as you were to get that 2-score lead, you're playing a little bit differently on the defensive side. And I think, that's where he got some of his yards. So I think the 49ers are going to do a good job, able to do a good job on Pollard early. I would expect him to get some of his yards, but I don't think he's going to have a big, big day. I think he'd probably get into that 70-yard range, which is right around what he's been over the last 3 weeks. He's been anywhere from 70 to 122 these last 3 weeks. I think that's right around where he's probably going to be closer to that 70 range.
I just think that a guy like Pollard has got better speed than Connor, and he's more dynamic, and it's just like you got to take good angles. You got to be a little bit more conservative, but you got to hit him. You got to hit him hard, and you got to be really physical with him. Dallas does not have another back. I mean, they've got Deuce Vaughn, they've got Dowdell, but neither of those guys are starting caliber backs. So they're a one running back team, and if you can somehow be incredibly physical with Pollard and even knock him out of the game like you did last year, I think your chances of winning the game go up dramatically. Here is the question I asked Kyle Shanahan this week about Brock Purdy. I want to play this for you. You were there. You heard me ask him the question.
Brock
here it is.
Still largely
Here's the question I asked Shanahan. Listen to his response. Kyle, you've had a lot of success with a lot of different quarterbacks in your system. What would you say to those who say that Brock is still largely a product of your system?
I mean, that's pretty ridiculous. You just got to watch the tape. I mean, he plays at a high level every time he's been out there. He's done it in a lot of different situations versus a lot of different defenses. On the road, at home, playoff games, when injured. He can't do all that stuff. He's been out there too long. It's on tape.
There you go. Very definitive in his defense of his quarterback. And yet, Jack, we're seeing, articles written, people that the latest came from the Ringer, a guy named Ruiz ranks Purdy like behind Mac Jones in the 20s. And I think one of the lines that has just got to be the line of the year. I watched the film and like he's not doing anything. That's what this guy Ruiz from the Ringer said about Brock Purdy. I've watched the film and like he's not doing anything. Jack, I mean, I'll stop banging this drum when people stop acting like just total morons. How could you watch the 49ers film? To me, I would recommend this highly, by the way. Did you see the JT O'Sullivan breakdown of Purdy?
I did not watch it. No.
It is really good. It is really good. And I would encourage anybody to go check it out. Now, JT O'Sullivan is not necessarily a Shanahan fan or anything. He was critical of Shanahan in this video. But when you watch the breakdown that JT O'Sullivan did of Brock Purdy last week against the Cardinals, I mean, he just shows several examples where Brock is efficient, he's athletic, he's aggressive, he's precise, he's almost surgical in his precision, and you can see his processing, you can see his footwork, his balance, his guts. I mean, it's all there on film, and JT is going through it, play by play, showing you the route the route combos and breaking the whole thing down, really snap by snap. How can somebody watch Brock Purdy at this point and be like, he's not doing anything?
Yeah, I don't know. He should just come out and said, I watched a film and I don't know what I'm watching. That's really what he just said. You watch him. I mean, yeah, he does have. There are times when there's guys that are wide open because of different reasons, whatever it is. And then there's other times where he just understands what's happening on the defensive side and puts the ball in the right spot. I mean, the long throw that he had to Brandon Ayuk last week, there's people are saying, oh, it should have been intercepted. It was underthrown. I mean, you go back and you just watch that play. I watched that play over and over again because when I was doing my film review on my channel, I was talking about it constantly, trying to explain like how that play, why he was throwing it there, why he threw it the ball to the spot that he threw it, and all these different types of things. You watch that, and you've got Brandon Ayuk. He's running down the field. He's not expecting the ball. He's thinking he's just running a clear out route because they're going to throw the over to Debo because that's usually who's open. Well, it's well covered by Arizona. You've got a corner who's got the deep half, but he's got to turn his back and sprint. So he doesn't even know what's happening with Brock Purdy. That's why Purdy's able to throw it where he puts it. I mean, there's just so much going on with that play, and it's just such a good ball, such a good throw. Everything about it. It's just like, how do you say that? Go back and watch the touchdown the week before where he throws the ball to, beats the rush to get the ball to Ronnie Bell or to throw to George Kittle. And come on. He's playing at an extremely high level. What Kyle Shanahan said right there is spot on. Kyle Shanahan knows what he has on this guy. He's coached an NFL MVP quarterback in the past. And you watch the way that he's calling games for Brock Purdy. It's clear that he believes in what he's doing. And I don't know. It just it's at this point, it's almost like everybody's just saying this thing because they know that it's going to get a response. That's, you see it from him. You see it from the Yahoo over at Fox Sports that does it all the time. The guy with the long hair who thinks he's,
Nick Wright.
Yeah, Nick Wright, the dime store Jesus or whatever they call him. That's what he looks like with his hair like that. I mean, the guy's just an idiot. It just, do what you got to do to get your clicks and get your views, I guess,
I guess, but I mean, man, what a credibility killer! What a credibility killer! When you look at that, and you're like, wow, you really don't see him doing anything. Let's hit some of the supers here.
Uh-huh.
Dazza0187 says, "I'm more concerned with Pollard than Lamb." What do you think, Jack? Are you more concerned with Pollard or Lamb?
I think the reason you could be more, I'd be more concerned with Pollard is that their ability, if they get the run game going, that just takes the ball. You kind of take the arrow of the ball. Limit the number of opportunities that you give the 49ers offense. I think that's where the concern would be there. I don't think he's going to rip off big runs, right? I don't see him going 25, 30 yards for a touchdown against this defense or anything like that. But if they're able to get a consistent run game going and they can just, chip away at it, you just limit the number of opportunities the 49ers have. And that's similar to like last week, right? Against the Cardinals. They didn't have the ball very much on offense. But when they did, they scored. I think they've got to be able to have a better time of possession this week. So I would be more concerned with Pollard than Lamb as well.
Yeah, Pollard to me was the key guy last year, and Jimmy Ward took him out. And he broke his leg on the play, and once he was out, I thought Dallas was done. I'd say Pollard is more of a concern as well because, with Lamb, you've got Michael Gallup, they've got some other receivers. With Pollard, there is no other back that they have that's anywhere close to his level. For that reason, I'd say Pollard. Holland Tracy says, I know you guys don't do fantasy advice, but J.P. Mason, dark horse, week 5. Well, I mean, we could do fantasy advice. I mean, what the heck? I play fantasy. Do you play fantasy, Jack?
I do. I'm in a couple of leagues. I'm doing good in one and not so good in the other.
I've got 5 wide receivers and I can only play 3. No. Okay.
I'll take my call off the air.
Yeah. Is it a PPR league? Is it a half-point PPR league? Is it do you guys play IDP? Do you have multiple quarterbacks? I mean, it's but no, what do you think of JP Mason? The one thing, the Niners come into this game almost 100% healthy except Elijah Mitchell. Feliciano's got the concussion. He's probably not going to go, but he doesn't start anyway, and you rarely play your backup lineman. But Elijah Mitchell hurt his knee last Thursday in practice and has not been out there since. So I don't think Mitchell's going to go, which means Mason is probably RB2 in this game. And after watching James Conner, a big back who runs hard, kind of run through arm tackles with Dallas, I wonder if the Niners will look at that and see success in this game for J.P. Mason and maybe hand him the ball 10, 12 times. What do you think? Is Mason a dark horse fantasy back for this game?
He could be. If you look at the game last year, Elijah Mitchell actually carried the ball more and better than Christian McCaffrey did in that game. Last year, Mitchell had 51 yards on 14 carries. He had a 13-yarder, was the longest run of the day for the 49ers, and that came from Elijah. So I could see that maybe playing out a little bit. I think McCaffrey last year, though, was also dealing with a little bit of an injury to his calf, which limited him a little bit in that game. I don't know. I think it's primarily going to be a McCaffrey game, and you're going to get a little bit of a dose of Mason here. But I would say for Mason, if he gets the 10 carries, that would be a high number for him. So just depends on how your league works out. But I could see him being a dark horse. Yeah.
No, I kind of, I'd have to see your roster and see what other options you have. But I could see J.P. Mason being a factor in this game. Juan Torres says, yo, Krueg in San Francisco from Seattle to watch the Niners. I'll be stopping at Pig and a Pickle. There you go. Pig and a Pickle, the best barbecue in all of Northern California. Go say hi to Damon and Mary, the owners. Tell them that Larry Krueger sent you. The pulled pork is absolutely amazing. If you're going to Marin County, they have potato chips that they cook in beef fat that are just absolutely amazing. So you got to try the potato chips if you're out there. This is kind of interesting, too. Dazza says, Dallas leads the league in time of possession. They just can't score in the red zone. What do you think, Jack? Is there, when you see that, to me, if there's anything that says to me, I could see the under. I know these teams have a lot of offensive firepower, but I could see this game being a lower scoring game because of that what Dazza says right there. I think the Niners will want to possess the ball and save their defense from being exploited as much as possible. And I think Dallas is also going to try to possess the ball. I see a lower scoring game. What do you see tempo wise in this game?
Yeah, that's what we were talking about a little bit ago, right? With Pollard, I think that could be a problem if he gets going and they're able to just let him go and take the air out of the ball. I could see it being an issue. Dallas, it's an interesting one with Dallas because part of their game is they've scored a lot of points on defense and special teams. I think they have 4 touchdowns so far this year between defense and special teams, and so they've been able to jump out. And then that allows them to kind of stick to the running game. Even against the Cardinals, the Cardinal game, they had the ball quite a bit too. And that's one in which they were trailing. So I can see that my prediction, somebody mentioned over in the comment section, they stole my prediction. My score, I think it's going to be a 30-20 game. I think the Niners are going to be able to, their offense is just so good. I think they're going to be able to score some points in the first half. The second half will be a little bit slower, but I can still see them getting to 30. I can see Dallas getting to 20. But the only reason I have Dallas at 20 is those red zone issues. I think there's going to have to kick some field goals instead of taking those touchdowns or getting in the end zone. So that's what I have. So I don't know what the under over is, but I would say 30-20 is my prediction on the score.
Couple last ones, but first let me mention that the Krueg Show brought to you by Mojo Fantasy. Mojo Fantasy has introduced a whole new way to play fantasy football this season. It works by entering into contests and building a portfolio of players. The props you pick act like stocks. You can buy and sell player stock live all game long. That's it. You make picks, you make moves, you make money. And I'm going with Purdy over the passing yards this week. I really like that, and I also like Brandon Ayuk in this game. Check the link in the description. Make sure you use that promo code Krueg, Krueg, and get up to $100 matched on your first deposit. Jack, who would you give 1 month in? Who would you give the MVP in the league to?
Oh boy, in the league, that's a tough one. But I think I'll say when it comes to the 49ers, I can give you that answer.
And the Niners have 2 guys right there in CMC and Purdy that are MVP candidates, for the league as well. But who's the Niner MVP?
Yeah, I would say right now the Niner MVP is Purdy. McCaffrey's right there as well. I can understand the argument that you make for both, but I think if you were in a game and you had to win, you're much better off having. I think that they'd be okay with Purdy. I think they'd be struggling more if he was off the field than if Christian McCaffrey was off the field. So for that reason, I think when it comes to value to the team and their ability to still win, I would say that it goes with Brock Purdy. But it's hard to argue against McCaffrey too, because he does impact so much. You see it on the film when it comes to the passing game. His impact in the passing game, helping create space, is a big piece of it. But you kind of get that a little bit with Debo, because of his ability to switch around. And then, last week you see Purdy, you see McCaffrey leave and Mason come in and boom, right off the bat, they throw the ball to him for a nice gain. So I lean more towards Purdy when it comes to that. I would give him the edge over McCaffrey right now at this point.
It's funny. If Purdy keeps the current pace, he will complete 72% of his passes, throw for 4,300 plus passing yards, 21 touchdowns, no picks. He's got 0 picks right now. And the Niners will be the top seed in the NFC. And it's going to be very difficult to keep Purdy out of the MVP vote, at least the conversation, if he's got those kinds of numbers. But a buddy of mine said, Krug, you know as well as I that Purdy's not as good as his numbers. And I said, what? Why is he not as good as his numbers? And he's like, well, look at the talent around him. And he's got Shanahan, and look at this. It's a lot of it's just the talent around him. But, you're talking about a guy who leads the league in QBR. He leads the league in adjusted yards per attempt. The 49ers have had double-digit leads in the fourth quarter in each of their first 4 games. And to me, I would say it's the opposite. I would say Purdy is better than his numbers. Why? Because Brock Purdy is tied for dead last in the NFL in passes thrown in the fourth quarter. They're getting to 3 quarters, the end of the third quarter with a double-digit lead, and they're running the heck out of the ball in the fourth quarter. They're calling off the dogs. They're going for the W. he's not attacking down the field in the air in the fourth quarter. 32nd in the league in passes thrown in the fourth quarter, to me, paints a very vivid picture. To me, it says that Brock Purdy's actually he's actually better than his numbers. That's how I see it.
Yeah, the whole argument of the talent around him and all those kind of things. I mean, I don't know. Didn't Joe Montana win the NFL MVP in like 88 and 89 or 89 and 90? I mean, he had the best wide receiver.
Talent.
He was thrown to the best wide receiver of all time, right? And he also had Roger Craig, and he had just guys all over the field, right? Brent Jones was a heck of a tight end. He had John Taylor, who was a really good number 2 wide receiver. They just had talent all over the field. I mean, Steve Young, he was an MVP multiple times. He was throwing to the same guys, and he had Ricky Watters, who was Ricky Watters. What he was able to do is very similar to what we see out of Christian McCaffrey. Look at what Ricky Watters did when he played for Mike Shanahan in 1994. His running and his receiving ability. I mean, if we're going to knock quarterbacks because of the talent around them, then we should just give the MVP award if it's going to be a quarterback award. Hand it to Justin Fields. He's playing with a crappy roster and playing good. Is he better? I mean, that's kind of what we're getting at here. This is a discussion that I get tired of, because it's every quarterback that plays at a high level has guys around him that help him play well. I mean, Stephon Diggs is a huge playmaker up in Buffalo. Pick a team, any quarterback, and he's got guys that are around him that help him make plays. They don't do it on their own.
Yeah. Do you think Niners Cowboys is the best rivalry in the league?
Cowboys, yeah, right now it is. It's always been one of the top rivalries. It's funny because it was more of a rivalry. Like, if you go through it, it was more of a rivalry in the 70s. In the 80s, it wasn't. In the 80s, it was Niners Giants, right? And then the 90s became Niners and Cowboys again for a few years there, 92 through 95, when they were really good. And now they're both really good again. And so it's back around. I think this is there's two really top. I think the other one's going to become the Eagles, because I think you're going to see the Niners Eagles play each other. You're going to see them on December 3rd, probably going to see them again in January. And you've got to have that familiarity with a team that's outside of your division. You've got to be playing them on a regular basis for it to become a rivalry game. Right now it's Niners Cowboys. The Eagles is right there too, coming up, I think, because that Eagles and Niners are the two best teams in the NFC. Cowboys are the third. And yeah, it's the history makes this one bigger than the Eagles matchup, but it's a heck of a seeing these two helmets on the field. It's one of those all-time classic helmet games, right? You see the Niner helmet and the Cowboy helmet, and it gets you excited.
How about the talk of Trey Lance working behind the scenes to share intel with the Cowboys? To me, this has got to be the single most overblown angle on this game. I just don't see it as a factor at all. I mean, who knew more about the Niners than Mike McDaniel? And the Niners smoked the Dolphins with Brock Purdy coming off the bench for Jimmy Garoppolo. And McDaniel knew far more about the inner workings of the Niner coaching staff on both sides of the ball. Didn't help him. I just think that this, I don't know. To me, this is much ado about absolutely nothing.
No, I'm right there with you. I mean, who knows Kyle Shanahan better than Dan Quinn? I mean, the guys coached together for 2 years in the same building, working together day after day after day. If anybody knows what the 49ers want to do, it's Dan Quinn. Trey Lance, yeah, he can go in there and tell them a little bit about what some of the offense does to the defenders. Okay, that's cool. But I know Dan Quinn can already do the same thing because he's seen it, right? I mean, it's just a talking point, Hey, the same point, maybe the 49ers are doing that with Anthony Brown, right? Anthony Brown was the Cowboy guy that was there for year after year after year after year, and we saw how that played out. There was a report last week about the Cowboys being concerned about having Zeke Elliott with the New England Patriots and giving away all their secrets there, and then they went out 138-3. It's just one of those almost nonsensical talking points that people get into, because at the end of the day, like Kyle Shanahan said, just all you got to do is watch the film. And, if they're having to talk to Trey to get a better understanding of what's going on, that really puts the 49ers in the driver's seat.
Supposedly Trey met with the coaching staff early in the week about personnel and system knowledge, and providing Dallas details on on the Niners, so on and so forth, and then obviously he's running scout team.
That right there is the funniest little tidbit, right? Is that they've got he's gonna help the Cowboys because he's running the scout team. Yeah, Trey Lance is nowhere close to Brock Purdy. So yeah, let's just go ahead and the ball's gonna be coming out a lot faster. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, exactly. We got one more from Holland Tracy. He says Jaleel McLaughlin or J.P. Mason. I'd probably go with McLaughlin on that.
Yeah, I think you're right on that one.
Yeah, that would be my angle. Jack, is there an angle on this game that I have not brought up that you would love to discuss before we bolt for the door here?
No, I think you hit them all. You know, for the 49ers on defense, it's limit Pollard. Just don't allow the explosive plays, which they've done already. You got to limit Pollard. You got to try to take him out of the game as much as you can. Force Dak Prescott to have to beat you with his arm. Limit the big plays out of CeeDee Lamb. I think you can, and you've seen the Niners be able to do that. And then on offense, you just got to keep doing what you're doing. You know, they've been so good in the first half. If they can continue that first half play where they're putting up points, they've scored, 13 out of 19 possessions this season in the first half. They've only punted the ball 3 times in the first half. The other 3 times they didn't score were kneel downs at the end. So if they do that, that's partly why they're so good at, so they've been so dominant in terms of the points and all that type of stuff. So keep your first half offense going, and I think you're right there.
I'm going to say 31-21 Niners, and I just really believe that the Niners are going to score 30, and they're giving up about 14. But I'll give Dallas a few more points just because of their offensive talent, and I think this is a huge game for Dallas. I think they'll bring a tremendous effort because they've circled this game, but I just think that there's no real stopping the 49er offense, and I think at the end of the day, it may even be lower scoring than that. I could see 35-14, but I'll say 31-21 Niners.
Yeah, we're right about the same number. I said 30-20, right about that. And then the one thing that we haven't talked about, we didn't talk about Brocktober. I didn't know anything about Brocktober until my pregame and postgame show, and I kept having somebody yell at me about Brocktober. And so he was telling me about all these crazy numbers that Purdy's put together. I wrote about it on Tuesday. Brock Purdy in the month of October has been amazing going back to his time in high school.
Really?
So yeah, if you look at it from his junior and senior year through his time at Iowa State, he's thrown for like 6,000 yards, rushed for another 1,000, like 72 touchdowns. It was a whole thing. It's a whole thing with him when he was at Iowa State. The month of October was good times for Brock Purdy. Hey, we saw it in the 49ers, right? Last week, 2021 NFL 49ers record. So Brocktober is alive and well in San Francisco.
Brocktober, there you go. So we didn't get the train today, but we did get the barking dog and
the leaf blower.
And the leaf blower. It's sometimes we get birds, trains, barking dogs, or gardening.
Yeah,
there's
and
every once out there.
Yeah, and every once in a while there's a fire truck or some kind of an ambulance or something like that. There's always noise. That's one of the good parts about my channel is you're always going to get some good ambient noise in the background for sure.
Hey, speaking of your channel, it's a great channel. And of course, Jack, check out what Jack does with the Santa Rosa Press Democrat. Also check him out on YouTube. But Jack, what do you got cooking on your channel between now and game day? What if people are watching this and they're like, hey, I'm going to go follow Jack I'm going to subscribe to Jack's channel. What content do you have between now and kickoff?
Yeah, I got a fun show coming up tonight at 4:00. Johnny Dell does Johnny Dell's Football Academy on YouTube. We're going to get together. We're going to be talking about the 49ers defense, going to be doing kind of a film breakdown of the 49ers defense. And, that's one of the things I looked at. I was watching a lot of film and I watch it all the time, but I was like, man, I got to do a film review on the defense because these guys are doing so well. And you kind of hear the negativity. I'm like, I don't get it. They're way better than people are talking about this side of the ball. So we're going to do a film breakdown at 4:00. Really dig into the 49ers defense. Tomorrow I'll have something on the channel and then pre and post on Sunday.
Sounds good. Hey, we will see you at Levi's Sunday afternoon. I'm looking forward to the Niners rolling to 5-0. Thanks for jumping in, and we always love our Friday co-channel extravaganza Have a great rest of your Friday.
I will. Thank you, Larry. Thanks for putting up with the leaf blower too.
That's all right. Tip him an extra $5 for me. There you go. See you, Jack. There you go. The great Jack Hammer. All right. Now on this channel, the rest of the day, in about an hour from now, 12:45, Brad Sham's going to stop by, and Damon Bruce is going to join me for that as well. It should be fun. 12:45. So go get some lunch. I'm going to go pick up my kid from his class, and then I'm going to come back, and we're going to talk to Brad Sham, the voice of the Cowboys, is going to join us on the Krueg Show, and Damon's going to be alongside because he's a big Brad Sham fan as well. We'll break it all down, talking more Niners Cowboys. We go behind enemy lines for Brad Sham, who's going to be fantastic, by the way. I love Brad Sham. We had him on last year before the playoffs. This guy's watched a lot of Cowboy football. It's a pleasure to have him on, and he's going to join us at 12:45. So look for that in about an hour. Let's thank our sponsors, Marin Autoglass, marinautoglass.com, 415-883-3030. New York style Italian sausage. The only kind of Italian sausage I will eat is New York style Italian sausage. Also, we are brought to you by Jurins. Big thanks to our friends over at Jurins Distributing Company for their partnering with the Krueg Show. If you're looking for top quality cocktail mixes, garnishes, and kitchen essentials with the absolute lowest prices, Jurins.com is the place to go. Now, they've been selling business to business up in Sacramento for over 50 years, but now you can order direct from their website, Jurins.com. Check out Jurins' website, once again, Jurins.com, and you can use the promo code Krueg at checkout for a nice, healthy discount. Jurins.com. And of course, we are also brought to you by Pig and a Pickle, the best barbecue in all of Northern California. Check them out in Emeryville and Corte Madera. They're open 7 days a week. Here's their spot in Marin.
So New York style sausage was started over 70 years ago. We are the largest producer of fresh Italian sausage on the West Coast.
What makes our sausage in New York style is really the recipe came from back east, from New York, from Connecticut.
If you look at all of our labels, there's maximum 4 or 5 ingredients, which we're really proud of.
There's no preservatives, no MSG, fresh in, fresh out.
The pork comes in fresh, goes out fresh. There's never any freezing throughout the process. We've always used fine quality cuts. We're never gonna deter from that. It's one of the reasons why our sausage is so good. I guarantee you put our sausage up against anybody else's from a flavor standpoint, no one will beat it, hands down.
And do yourself a favor and do me a favor. Go buy a package of the New York style Italian sausage. Guaranteed you will love it, guaranteed.
The home stretch on the Krueg Show. I'd like to thank everybody from Jack Hammer to all of you guys. We are sitting at 24,840 subs, closing in on 25,000 subs. It's a huge moment for the channel. We're probably going to get there in the next day or two. We're picking up. We've added over 2,200 subs in the last 4 weeks alone. Guys, we've had 1.5 million views of Krueg Show videos or live streams in the last 28 days alone. That is a record for the channel. So thanks to the great Len Dempsey. Thanks to my son, the great Kevin Krueger. If you're wondering why Kevin and I did not do a Wednesday night call-in show, just that he was under the weather. So we didn't do a Wednesday night call-in show, but he will join me for Niner postgame after hopefully the Niners beat the Cowboys on Sunday Night Football. Join us in at 12:45 Pacific, less than an hour from now. Brad Sham and Damon Bruce stop by. Thanks to everybody for supporting this channel. If you're one of the people still in the stream right now, hit like and subscribe. If you hit like, it just helps the algorithm. More people find the shows. And if you hit subscribe and click that notification bell, every time we go live, you're going to get a notification that we're going live, and you don't have to miss a single minute of the Krueg Show. And I'm really looking forward to Brad Sham. Dave Muschek says, let's get to Sunday evening already. I cannot wait. Oh, David, I'm with you. Absolutely with you. Holland Tracy says, I was going to say thank you to Kevin for all the shorts he's putting out there. Yeah, seriously. Kev is hustling, man. He is really, really hustling. I love him. He's my oldest son. He's a senior this year at Cal Poly. He's a construction management major. But he's found that he likes YouTube. And he's found that he's been an incredible asset to his pops. So I love him, and he does an incredible job. So thanks to Kev. Thanks to all of you. Thanks to the people that viewed our content 1.5 million times this month. I don't even know what to say about that. I mean, it's just unfreaking believable. Shop our sponsors, Marin Auto Glass, New York Style Italian Sausage, Pig in a Pickle, Jurins.com. We have 2 fantasy associations, both Underdog Fantasy and Mojo Fantasy. And thanks to all of you guys, seriously. Thanks to every single one of you as we approach 25,000 subs. I couldn't have done it without you. And at 12:45, be back. Brad Sham and Damon Bruce will be in the house. Until then, peace.
Yeah, never met a man I've been scared of. Careful, you gon' get exactly what you asked for. Here for whatever you